I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. We are living through unprecedented times. As a result, the Michigan Homeowner Assistance Fund was created. This fund, administered by the state of Michigan, is designed to help homeowners cope with pandemic-related hardships, such as delinquent property taxes. Residents may apply for up to $25,000 to help cover 2019, 2020, and 2021 tax years. Previous year's taxes must be paid in full or in a payment agreement with the Treasurer's office. Eligible homeowners must have a qualified financial hardship that occurred on or after January 21st, 2020. You must currently own and occupy your home as your primary residence and must have owned it since January 21st, 2020. To see if you qualify, please visit waynemetro.org, call 313-388-9799, or email taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Week That Was. I'm Saeed Khan, joined again by an awesome group of people who are going to be shepherding you through what's been going on this week in the news. Speaking of shepherds, and they came two by two, we've got attorneys, Joel Sklar and Bill Seikaly. There's a shout out to you, Noah. We've got community and labor activist Barb Ingalls back. Welcome back, Barb.
Thank you. I missed you guys.
We missed you too. I don't know where Bob was taking you around, but I'm glad he brought you home. We've got veteran journalist Nancy Derringer, and of course, co-founder of Deadline Detroit, Allan Lengel. So I think we should really start with the breaking news of, given the fact that we spend a pretty decent amount of time talking about former President Donald Trump, some of the various capillaries of these stories. His very close confidant and attorney at one time, Sidney Powell, apparently now is copping a plea deal. Yesterday, she pleaded guilty in the Georgia election tampering case. This, after all, for those of you who are familiar with the case and what was going on in 2020, and a bit of Greek mythology, known that she was going to release the Kraken. So, but I think Poseidon had other ideas. So I believe, Allan, you've got a video of someone who has an opinion about Ms. Powell.
He let this crazy, unethical woman into the Oval Office. And that's what she is. I've met her. She's both unethical and crazy. He let her into the Oval Office and suggested that the Attorney General of the United States appoint her as special counsel to investigate the election. Thank God we had Bill Barr there, who absolutely looked at him and said, I won't do it, and if you try to make me do it, I'll leave.
Now, it's got to be quite the day when you're thanking God for Bill Barr.
No. You can thank Bill Barr. You can thank God for Bill Barr, but not if you want justice most of the time.
And the other fact that I'm glad that Christie kept going on, because that meant Kellyanne Conway now could feel it wasn't him talking about her. So as far as being a crazy woman into the Oval Office. So what are the implications of this guilty plea?
It's a domino that falls, a big domino that falls, and I think others are going to follow.
Yeah. I think that we've got a very serious threat to democracy in this country in terms of views on issues that we're going to be talking about in a little while. But one of the core values of any democratic system is its judicial system. And whether or not, we've heard this phrase 1,000 times, there's anybody above the law. Sidney Powell has just found out that she's not above the law. This is a sweet deal. No jail time for a very important crime. However, it's conditioned. It's conditioned upon her truthful testimony against other defendants. Sure, people will stand up, oh, you got a deal to make this testimony, you got a deal for this, you got a deal for that. They're going to use that. This is going to be powerful evidence against Donald Trump in a state case where even if he gets elected as president, he can't pardon himself.
Now take us through the procedure, Bill. Let's say, okay, now that they've obviously negotiated this, and they're expecting her to testify truthfully. What are the mechanisms that they're going to have in place to make sure that she's on the straight and narrow? Are they taking depositions? Are they getting statements under oath, affidavits that could subject her to perjury if she goes off the rails?
I am sure that what they have is sworn affidavits from her as a result of hours and hours and hours of questioning.
Right.
They've got her testimony. They already know what she's supposed to testify to. And if she doesn't testify to those facts, she's in deep shit.
Now, we do have some, I'm imagining, viewers who might tend to focus a bit on the fetishistic. Was any waterboarding, do you think, involved?
Sadly, no. Sadly, no.
Okay. Okay.
You know what, Joel? You say that. Listen, I don't think waterboarding would have worked on Sidney Powell.
Not on Sidney. But you know what happens is that Sidney with their lawyers make a proffer. They tell the government, here's what we know. And I'm sure it's recorded. I'm sure it's solid. And if she deviates, she's going to get the book thrown at her, as it were. She won't deviate, is my guess. She has a great deal. She still has a whole bunch of money from her own little fundraising. My question was, is she going to get disbarred?
Oh, there's no question she's going to get disbarred. She pled to a felony.
Right, but it's just bizarre. But she pled, I thought, to misdemeanors. I don't think she pled to any felony. I thought she pled to
I think there were six misdemeanors. Maybe.
Right, and so I wonder if that's going to happen. But she must have a treasure trove.
And let me. I don't know if I want to assure you. I know a little bit about her involvement in the Michigan cases because I know the attorneys who've been involved in that case. I'm going to be shocked if she's not disbarred for reasons that don't have anything to do with the what she just pled to in Georgia. The now list of conduct in her case is amazing. I mean, you seldom see this with one lawyer, and I don't think there's any question she's going to get disbarred. I just don't see it.
She's
Barb,
crazy, like Chris Christie said. Go ahead,
Barb. Yeah. Do you think that she's got a future as My Pillow gal?
Will they go after her? Will Dana Nessel go after her also?
She has. I thought the state did. I thought the state did. There were sanctions by Judge Parker,
the judge
that were levied.
A federal judge recommended.
She's going to put that pillow over her face. Is what she's going to do.
I think I can't remember how it went, but a federal judge here recommended that her and several other people get disbarred.
Every year at least sanctioned. Suits were sanctioned significantly. So I think that's probably on appeal and ongoing. Is my guess.
Yeah. It's ongoing in Michigan. And I'll tell you, I don't think that there's any possibility that that the Court of Appeals of the Michigan Supreme Court is going to reverse it. Look, I know Brian Zara. I know some of the conservatives on the Michigan Supreme Court. They may be conservative, but they're ethical, and they're going to be offended by this conduct. They are offended by this conduct. I'm confident.
Isn't that terrible that you have to make that point? Is that they might be conservative, but they're still ethical? I mean, that's where we are. That's exactly
where we are. That's true, Barb. That's a really great point. And we're there because people have associated, and I don't think it's accurate. People have associate now that Trump is a conservative, and we know how unethical he is.
He's not a conservative.
Trump is not anything related to what we used to view as traditional Republicans. He's just not.
And his followers, his MAGA followers in Congress. I mean, Mark Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz. I mean, those people.
Jim Jordan.
Those people aren't considered ethical or honest.
Nor are they considered true conservatives.
Right.
Not true conservatives.
Rabble rousers.
No, I don't think they're reading George Will.
George Will had a great column.
I love George. I love George.
Do you realize how much like a Woody Allen movie we all sound when we talk this way?
It's the best.
George Will had a great column. Did you read this very thoughtful book?
The New Yorker.
That was recently published and excerpted in the Washington Post magazine. Did you do? I mean, we're out of touch.
Yeah,
man.
So I started the New Yorker yesterday.
I'm canceling my subscription to the New Yorker now, Nancy. Damn it.
No. You'll miss Borowitz, the fount of all knowledge.
Wait, but I still have Marshall McLuhan on my bingo card. We haven't talked about him yet. So.
Right, exactly.
It's time.
Okay. Well, I'll have a plate of mashed yeast. So how's that?
Yeah.
Well, it seems.
I do suggest that the Sidney Powell plea is the worst thing, and at least based on what I saw last night, Trump allegedly was surprised, or Trump's team was allegedly surprised by this. This is the worst news that he could have had.
Yeah,
it's just the worst.
Because she was really his right-hand woman in all of this, and so she would have been there for all of the conversations.
Is Trump going to say he doesn't know who she is? Everybody takes pictures with them. She's a crazy lunatic anyway. I never took her seriously. I mean, I'm waiting to hear that.
Yeah,
their defense may be, wait a minute, she was my lawyer, and she told us to do this, that it was okay. How can she now?
Well, that's kind of
that is a defense. Believe it or not, the advice of counsel defense is a valid defense. However, and this is going to be a huge problem for Trump, to use that defense, you must waive the attorney-client relationship and all the privileges that comes along with it. That's a huge problem.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of the New York Times, that was the foundation of a piece they did a couple of weeks ago on Rudy Giuliani's drinking. And they were saying that they're going to try to use that defense. Well, Rudy's told us it was okay, but they're going to counter that the fact that he is an alcoholic, or at least has a serious drinking problem, was common knowledge in New York. It is common knowledge in New York and has been for years.
Yeah.
And that they should have known that it's like taking advice from a crazy person.
I knew it was coming.
Love that.
I knew it was coming.
But he was visibly impaired. I mean, my guess is when he's in the Oval Office, he's visibly impaired. He's
right. They said that on election night, everybody was kind of, as it looked darker and darker, everyone was kind of moping around, and Giuliani was the one who lifted his single malt high in the air and said, just go ahead and declare a victory and we'll figure it out later. So, and they said everybody that was in that room who's talked about that said he was visibly wasted.
Absolutely.
Allan, was that picture that you keep putting up, was that taken on election night?
Yeah. He just keeps repeating that.
Something about shortcomings should be raised here.
You're never going to forgive him for saying that Jewish men have smaller penises than Italian men, are you? We're just going to keep showing that picture over and over again.
I find that so funny that he thought it's from the Borat movie where he thinks like, yes, this woman is like, yeah, come on in the bedroom, we'll have a drink.
This beautiful woman is going to come in and have sex with him, right? Yeah.
Right. I mean, what else could he possibly be thinking? And then he's priming himself for the main event.
It's too early for that kind of time.
So now Sidney's going to throw him under the bus too, because isn't Giuliani also indicted in Georgia?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, this is looking very bad, and I just read something in my Axios morning email that kind of worried me about this. And, they were saying that this is, let me see if I can find it. The world is in a very precarious place right now. And part of it is what's happening to Trump. And they're saying that like between what's going on in Israel, Putin's role with, or warming relations with China, and of course, Iran, and Kim Jong-un. And then we have what's going on with Trump, and it's, the best case scenario for what's going on with Trump is that that his problems, people finally get sick of listening to his bullshit, and he just becomes the crazy uncle babbling in the corner, hopefully from a prison cell. But, if for some reason these MAGA idiots take a notion, we could end up with like riots in the streets or unrest in the streets, or at least unrest on the country roads where so many of them live in trailers.
But how about just the fact that we can't get anything through Congress?
And we can't get anything through Congress is deadlocked and potentially going to shut down the government. I mean, all these things are kind of coalescing to make a really scary time right now. I mean, I don't want people.
Can I channel Steve Fishman for just 1 second?
Yeah.
A country that looks within,
yes,
is going to be destroyed from without.
Yeah, we talked about that last week.
That's right. That's exactly what happened to Netanyahu. And I'm afraid it's what is happening to our entire country.
We have a video. We do have a video of our new leader.
Give the interim speaker, who of course is known for his line of gourmet popping corn, the gavel. While they figure this out, his name's Patrick McHenry. He's a conservative Republican. He's respected by both sides. Put his picture up again, because this guy makes Mike Pence look like Tupac.
Very
so on that bill, we've got Jim, GYM or JIM, your choice, given how he is at the Ohio State wrestling team issues. Jim Jordan having a bit of trouble getting the vote. Apparently, things are quite chaotic. I was just reading that in a recent huddle of the Republican leadership, former Speaker Kevin McCarthy was saying something. Gates interrupted him, and McCarthy said, "Sit your ass down." Another source said that McCarthy was apparently ready to lunge over the table to go ahead and stick it to Matt Gaetz. We have Michigan Congressman Jack Bergman saying, "I'm ready to be Speaker if anybody were to go ahead and ask me." And yet we, of course, have these issues that there are spending bills. There is the supposed work of the people that the People's House should be in order and convened to do. None of that is happening.
How about the fact that we just shot our first missiles in the war in the Middle East?
Oh, and the take down the
from the ones coming in from Yemen.
From Yemen.
Yeah.
That's happening. We're shooting in the Middle East, and we don't have Congress.
Right.
Division causes.
You need more of a crisis.
Right.
You need more of a crisis to know that we really do need a House and a Senate.
Yeah.
Well, it's clear they do not care about the American people. It's all about about power. I mean, it's so sad we've reached this point where I don't think we've ever, well, I shouldn't say this, but it seems like worse than ever that they really are total disregard for. It's like, who's going to be in power? I want to be in power. You want to, well, and then Jim Jordan apparently has somebody, surrogates or somebody threatening some of the other Congress members that if they don't vote, they're going to get primaried. Some are having death threats.
Yeah, I think
that works real well.
So actually, there is somebody's wife.
Second vote he lost by 22. Apparently, his threats aren't very.
They published Mike Rogers' phone number, or sent it around. I mean, and for me to have sympathy for Mike Rogers, this is a terrible day. But
Barb, when I called the number, I ordered 2 conies and some fries. But there was a death threat against a few of the Congress people, and the wife of one, Congressman Don Bacon, Republican from Nebraska, apparently said she was sleeping with a loaded gun, and this has been confirmed because there was a photo going around of the loaded gun smoking a cigarette. So I think that I think that actually happened.
I mean, speaking of, I mean, just the irrationalness, and here's another little quick video of Jordan Klepper, who is back on the campaign trail, Comedy Central at a Trump rally, and just
the other guy.
I mean, Trump has done more than Biden will ever do, and that's the other side of it. He should be in jail, him and his kid, for treason. I mean, they've taken money from other countries who we're not really in favor of.
It's insane. The fact that, like, you can have a member of your family get billions of dollars from Saudi Arabia is nuts.
Yeah.
Right?
They did nothing but a big cover-up.
So you think Trump should be punished for all of that money that Ivanka and Jared got?
No.
Nope. Wait, who are you talking about?
I'm talking about Biden with his kid. And...
Oh, not the Jared and Ivanka money from Saudi Arabia.
No.
Does that bother you?
No.
Please God, let those be two hats.
They are two hats. I'm pretty sure those two hats. So there you go. So.
It's crazy.
Oh my goodness. So we say here, we got from Bob Noska, latest, it wasn't a missile attack on the hospital in Gaza, but a car bomb due to the lack of crater from the blast. This sounds like a Tom Clancy novel. I think it was in Clear and Present Danger, looking at the cellulose munition that fell on the hacienda.
Well,
not that I saw the movie.
I'm not getting into a discussion about Tom Clancy. Sorry. I'm underprepared.
Okay, I know you accuse this show of being a little bit too male. So
yeah.
We'll move on that. But on the one hand, you see the kind of indiscipline with Congress. At the same time, to bring it to the issue that's going on in Israel-Palestine, President Biden not only visited Israel earlier in the week, but he also addressed the nation last night. And from most of the feedback, it seems as though people find his speech to have been substantive and also from the chatter coherent is, I think, the other way that it was being described. But at the same time, the optics of President Biden traveling into a war zone, meeting with somebody who he's clearly had issues with, Prime Minister Netanyahu, and then along with Secretary of State Antony Blinken, seemingly giving carte blanche to the Israelis for launching the ground offensive into northern Gaza. Anything missing from that?
I think you've said it well. A couple of points I'd like to make. I'd like to have a discussion around it. I don't think we finished up last week. I would rather see right now the ground offensive than the bombing as to what's going on. So we're displaced. The Israelis tried to displace 1.2 million people from Gaza. Many of them left. But the idea that we are bombing their homes, their stores, the infrastructure, that there's going to be nothing left to go back to.
I think that's the plan.
It's going to create more Hamas, not less Hamas. It's going to create more terror, not lesser terror. So a ground offensive that goes in, tries to get to the tunnels, tries to get to the infrastructure of Hamas, while I think is incredibly dangerous.
It is.
Urban warfare is an amazingly dangerous problem. It would be better from my perspective in terms of protecting innocent Palestinians. But I think that there's a problem that we really haven't looked at. And I would really like to have a bit of a discussion about it.
My guess is, just from my view, is that Israel has lost 1,400 citizens. They don't want to lose more. They don't want to lose their young men. They've been. I'm not so sure when they're going to go in. I think that the strategy of trying to secure the border and doing bombings is to protect Israeli lives. Whether or not they go in, and I guess there have to be.
They've now killed 5 times the number of Israelis.
I got it. I'm not forgiving anything. This is the nature of god-awful events, and it's the nature of war where the civilians suffer the most. And that's what's happening here. But my guess is that if Israel's going to be they've been patient with going in, I think, to avoid the inevitable numbers of dead that are going to come from house to house warfare. I think they want to avoid that at all costs. And I think the bombing from a distance saves Israeli lives and certainly costs Palestinian lives.
I think it costs Palestinian innocent lives. Alan, would it
Yeah,
be
go
okay?
ahead.
One other
Yeah,
point?
sure.
I just looked up these numbers this morning. You know, everybody talks about how horrific Hamas is and why don't the Palestinians throw Hamas out? Let me tell you, they have no other game in town. Hamas provides virtually all the infrastructure, social services, educational services, and medical services to the Palestinians that live in Gaza and on the West Bank.
And the country is a cage. You can't leave.
That's right. And Israel controls everything that comes in.
Right.
Controls all the power, all the water, everything that comes in. Mm-hmm. So what's the option for the Palestinians? I mean, look, people used this expression last week, and I agree with it. Let's free the Palestinians from Hamas. But where's the support going to come from? Let me point out a few numbers. The Americans have been fairly generous with the Palestinians. They've given them $250 million, that's with a M, a year for the last 4 years. During that same time, we give the Israelis $4 billion with a B dollars a year. Now, much of that military aid, that's fine, and I understand why we do that. But let me suggest that the Israelis get the support, but we don't support democracy among the Palestinians. We don't support aid to the Palestinian people, even basic humanitarian aid. This $250 million, Biden was proud of the fact that he made some deal for trucks to come in. Mm-hmm. You have any idea how little food that is?
Yeah.
It's 20 trucks, Bill, which are still not in Gaza.
Right.
But just to give you some perspective, Taylor Swift's Eras tour used 90 semis. I'm not sure that even all the trucks that are going into Gaza are as big as a semi. So, yeah,
it's a problem.
I want to say a couple of things. And look, the whole thing is horrific. I mean, it's painful for anyone who has any sense of decency to see on both sides what's happening, and things could be doing different. I mean, first of all, Israel should not have cut off the water and food. I mean, they can still execute what they needed to execute without increasing this level of inhumanity. And Israel is under at some point the water boils so hot that the world says, turn it down, Israel, no matter who it is, including the U.S. But to Bill's point about the aid and stuff like that, I agree. Look, Israel gets a lot of money from the U.S., but the Gaza and the Palestinians get also money from Qatar. Like, Qatar is a huge supplier of funds and so is the EU. And so that, it's not just the $250 million. I think that there's a bigger picture there. But when we talk about democracy also, I mean, the last election was 2006. I don't think anyone's going to argue that, people think of Hamas as the freedom fighters, but they don't necessarily represent, they haven't had an election because they are pretty sure they won't get reelected. And people can't go speaking up and railing against Hamas because they're not going to be around for very long. So it's complicated. Look, Netanyahu fucked up. He helped raise the boiling pressure on this whole situation. He needs to go. And Hamas needs to go. But the thing is also, there's 300 miles of tunnels. That money came from, instead of helping the economy, I mean, they have turned the Gaza into a military zone with 300 miles of tunnels.
But let me
rambling.
Let me try and clarify my point, Alan.
Sure.
I don't disagree with you that the Palestinian people have gotten money from other sources, but not from democratic sources. Mm-hmm. You ask the Palestinian people to just be tough and to overthrow Hamas for what? And if you go
I'm not saying they're outgunned and all that. I'm not saying that. So
no. What I'm saying is that the people who are supporting the Palestinians are not democratic regimes.
Right.
And we need to put our money where our mouth is. We want to support democracy. We want the Palestinians to be democratic. We've got to say, hey, we will be there to fill the void.
But what?
And we're not. Israel's going to go in, and my guess is that they will not be as successful as they think against Hamas. This is going to be bloody.
Right.
It's going to be ugly. It's going to be one of the worst things that Israel has ever gone through.
Which is why they're bombing so significantly.
That's right.
Yeah.
But even when it's over, and I think this is of critical importance, even when it's all said and done, if they're successful in destroying Hamas, what's going to be there for the Palestinians and who's going to fill that void?
Right.
And if
So
you look
Bill,
at the history of it, it's not us.
They talk about now Israel's trying to pretend like they have this great plan. They say we're at 3 phases. The final phase is that we seat a new government. First of all, Israel can't seat a new government. That won't work. And second of all, it's like in Iraq when we went in and then we tried to get rid of all the Ba'ath Party, removing them from every government position and tried to fill in. U.S. realized what a mess, what a disaster. And Israel is headed for that. If they can't, they're not going to, look, even if they'd have to have a lot of the Hamas in places running the government. And so it's a mess. And Israel pretends to be smarter than it is. And Israel has always been the smartest on the block, but I think we're seeing that they're not as smart as they think they are.
I don't want to confuse, because I don't want to do what I believe other people do to my people. I don't want to lump every Israeli in with Netanyahu, because I don't think it's accurate. I don't. Netanyahu has been a disaster.
Yes, no
in
question.
This crisis. He's been a disaster in this crisis. He's created more of it than he's ever solved.
Well, and 82% of Israelis polled right after October 7th agree with you. They place the blame on Netanyahu, and 54% want them to resign. Well, the Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant has revealed what the plans are for the Israeli Defense Force. It's a 3-phase war, starting with airstrikes and ground maneuvers, moving into eradicate pockets of resistance, and then ceasing Israel's, quote, responsibility for life in the Gaza Strip. I don't know what that means, but it doesn't really sound good. I have to wonder
what Germans used to say about Jews during World War II. I mean, it really does. It's frightening to me, the similarities between much of what I've been hearing out of Israeli spokespeople connected with Netanyahu and about wiping these people from the planet. Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
I mean, I think the fact that to date 24 hospitals have been bombed in Gaza, which there hasn't even been verification about whether these are alleged Hamas sites. I'm not sure how those are targets or considered legitimate military targets, but it seems as though there's something more going on than simply eradicating Hamas as what is the stated purpose here. It's just making that area uninhabitable.
That's exactly what's going on, because I don't think Israel has any intention of reoccupying Gaza for any length of time. It's a deadly, stupid, strategy that will never work. I think they're just going to keep. I think Israel's going to try to protect its soldiers as best it can and continue this bombing. They are going to make the Gaza Strip uninhabitable. I think that's the purpose of all this, to get people to leave and never come back. It's crazy what's going on, but I don't think Israel's looking to occupy Gaza at all. That's why they got out. They don't want to be there.
There are still people who are whining about Israelis getting out of the Gaza. When I was in Jerusalem last year, I went to a little museum. It was in an apartment, and it was all dedicated to the pain of settlers withdrawing. And there was a movie, and there were pictures and all that. And so there are still people who would love to go back in. And ultimately, the Israelis have to get out of the territory. out of the West Bank. They need to get out of the West Bank. They need to negotiate something where they don't have to patrol it. They don't have to worry about people coming over and launching bombs and stuff like that. They need to have a real peace. And I don't know if that's possible, but that needs to happen.
From your mouth to God's ear, Alan. The fact of the matter is that I think that Wesco, whatever that was, I didn't catch it, I think that there's a legitimate argument, and I hate to oppose Brother Sklar, because I think he's been right more often than he's been wrong. But I think that there's a substantial portion of the right wing in Israel that would gladly
absolutely
move in Gaza. And if you're right that they're making it uninhabitable for the Palestinians, there's going to be a void there. And I think that one of the things that Netanyahu may be thinking about is we can let the settlers go in and take that over and push the boundary back. I think it would be a huge mistake.
Yeah, it would be. But I don't think Bibi has that clout. He doesn't have that capital. 82% disapproval, think he should get out. He's not going to, the right wing is not going to control Israel anymore after this. This is an upheaval. This is a reflection. This is all transformative. If the right wing does control Israel, then we're all fucking doomed.
Yeah. Hey, Joe, we were the people who didn't think Trump would get elected.
Right. Well, I thought he would. I kept telling people he's going to get. I see all these signs. Seriously.
What about the idea though? What about the idea that, and I don't mean to sound crass about this, but northern Gaza is being rezoned from residential to potentially commercial and industrial. I read somewhere that this may be part of the India Middle East alternative to the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative, which would be then needing to go through coastal areas. It's certainly a novel theory that's out there, because I can't reconcile any other way why they would just be simply scorching the earth. Clearly, no one settler or Palestinian could inhabit that area.
They claim that they want to go in after and start and helping rebuild, but I don't. It's a disaster. It's clearly. We were talking. I don't know if we want to show this film or not, but there's showing how deeply entrenched and problematic the mindset is in the Middle East and the beliefs. Do we want to play this video of the children?
If you'd like.
Yeah. Okay. And I'd say that I'm not. I mean, this is what both sides are learning. And here's.
إنه إحنا مش إنه إحنا مش شاطرين، إحنا قوايا كمان. في ناس بحبوا فلسطين، بدهم يحاربوا وبضحوا بدمهم عشان فلسطين. أنا بدي أهزمهم بالحرب، بدي أهزمهم.
بيعلمونا إنه الأقصى إلنا وإلنا يعني يعني إلنا فلسطين والأراضي كلها إلنا، لأنهم بسبب كذبهم وانتهاكاتهم إنهم يقولون إنه الهيكل تحت المسجد الأقصى، ولا مرة إنه يكون الهيكل تحت المسجد الأقصى.
أنا بقرأ اليهود.
بعلمونا إن الصهيونية هم أعدائنا، وهم أهم إشي لازم يسوي فيهم عملية.
يعني إنهم بيعلمونا بالمدرسة إنهم إرهابيين
بيحكوا لنا عن اليهود إنهم هدول مش منيح، وهدول بقتلوا قاعدين بشبابنا. بيحكوا لنا هدول غدارين، وبيحكوا لنا إنه هدول بغدرونا، هدول مش منيح. إذا بطعن بدعس عليهم، أعمل عمليات. كيف يعني؟
It sounds as though those kids have been going to the Palestinian version of PragerU. This is what happens. This is what happens when you allow crazy ideologues to take over an education system. Although, this is such a foreign place that it doesn't. I mean, that our own attitudes about education don't necessarily apply. But I mean, I've seen these stories before too. That in Palestinian schools, the the map of Israel just says occupied Palestine. It doesn't say Israel. There's no acknowledgement that Israel has any right to exist at all. But that's, that kind of crazy is what a lot of people would like to see in American schools. So there you go.
And this
slavery offered a great many very valuable skills to
people. They had a roof over their head, right?
Yeah, and they got sought.
There comes a point, folks. There just comes a point where the inhumanity that Allan was talking about earlier with the bombing of Gaza becomes terrorism.
Right.
It's a question of which side you're looking at it from.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to. Okay, I don't know if any of you have ever been in a refugee camp. I made the mistake of going. It altered my life. It's very hard to go into a refugee camp and see people who have been there all their lives, especially when you come from a family. It would be, I assume, much like a Jewish person going to any of the concentration camps. It's incredibly disturbing to know that that's where children were born and raised. And I don't know how much school needs to teach them. They hear it all the time. The Zionists took our homeland. The Zionists took our home. What gives them the right to create their own homeland in our home?
Mm-hmm.
You hear that during family discussions.
True.
Now, in my house, it was a little different. In my house, there was a clear distinction between being a Zionist and being a Jew. But my father said, what gave the Zionists the right to come in and to create their own homeland on my homeland? You had a point?
Yeah. Well, I don't argue it at some degree, but I mean, look, the Jews and the Arabs have been there for thousands of years. And
wait, Allan,
yeah.
Allan, let's look. The Arab Jews and Arab Muslims and Arab Christians have been there for thousands of years. The European Jews and the American Jews have not been in Israel for thousands of years.
Right.
There's a difference there.
No. I agree. Look, my father was in Poland. He was in the Haganah, which was an underground before the war, helping to liberate Israel from the British. And there's certainly an argument to be made. Look, what is it? 600,000, 700,000 Palestinians were displaced when Israel was created as a state. We also have the history of, hundreds of thousands of Jews were displaced from some of the Arab countries like Iraq and others as a result of that. We also have to look at in Poland, where my father was from, before the war, there were 3.3 million Jews. After the war, there were 6,000 Jews. The Jews have been annihilated and abused. And so the
Allan,
idea of Israel is not necessarily a 100% fair deal that was made, but something had to be done where the Jews could finally say, we're here and we're not going to get annihilated. But now, right after 48, right when the UN approved it, the Arab countries declared war on Israel and they tried to destroy, so it's a complicated.
Allan, you have never heard me say that I don't understand the desires of the Jewish people to have their own homeland.
Yeah.
I do understand it. I think the Holocaust was probably the darkest period of our history. The Holocaust and slavery, as far as I'm concerned, are the two darkest periods in our history. But when the oppressed becomes the oppressor, we have a problem. And the Jews, the Muslims, and the Christians lived in Palestine for many, many years peacefully. Yeah. It was only when the Europeans and the Americans came in that ended. So all I'm saying is there's an argument on the other side. I understand why Jews want a homeland. It makes sense to me. If I were Jewish, I definitely believe that. My father used to say, why didn't they give him part of Germany?
I think we should give them the UP. Let the Jews all go to UP. And
what do you got against the Jews? You're going to give them the UP? Next, you're going to say give them Toledo.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute.
Alabama.
Isn't ishpeming a Yiddish word? Anyone?
Should be.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
didn't
okay.
Michael Chabon wrote a wonderful novel called the Yiddish Policeman's Union, and it's speculative fiction based on, apparently there was a very short-lived effort in Congress in the 40s after the war, when Israel's fate was being determined, to turn over parts of Alaska for a Jewish nation, and it was this book is based in Lake Sitka, so it's anyway, go ahead. Just trying to lighten the load here. We're going in circles now. You realize
we
this.
are.
No. This is the problem, right? This is the circle. This is we can't get out of it. We can't break the circle, and we got to break the fucking circle.
Yes.
And we're not doing that. And it's because these things are so embedded in us. You know, at Hebrew school, I was taught, you know, Israel was a wonderful state. You know, and the Palestinians are, you know, their philosophy. I get that. But the circle's got to be broken. People have to say, you know, we've lost a lot, but we'll accept the loss if we can finally.
My relationship with Joel and Allan, my marriage to Joni, everything in my personal experience tells me we can overcome this. Everything in my personal experience tells me that we have far more in common than we have that divides us.
We all love our children.
So I'm sorry.
We all love our children. You know, we all love our children. Nobody wants to see it.
I love Allan. Hell, I mean, I love my children too, but I love Allan. Allan and I are dear friends. I love that guy. I don't care that he's Jewish. Dude. I don't care that he goes over to Israel. I don't care that he supports Israel. I love this guy, and I love my wife. The fact that we can have these interpersonal relationships tell me we can do it, but we can't. For God's sakes, we can't rely on the next generation to do it. My father used to tell me, "Oh, your generation will work this out." We've made a bigger mess of it.
Right.
We've got to do it now.
I was going to say, and feelings are mutual, Bill. But I got to say that like one of the kibbutzes where they had a fund to help the Gazans, they were all about peace and trying to. We saw in the last 9 months there were mass demonstrations over Netanyahu. I mean, it's unfortunately some of the people who were for a more united front were murdered, but in the same in Palestine, you know, in the Palestinian territory, some people who want to just live and people were coming into work. There were 15,000 Gazans, and not to say this is anything mitigating in the whole thing, but there were Gazans coming every day to work in Israel, and I'm sure they developed some relationships there. It's you're right. There's a basis there. There's a core for there that can be worked on, but it's the militants on both sides, Netanyahu and his religious people who believe the Bible should dictate what land is whose, and Hamas that is just doesn't want the existence of Israel or Jews, you know, the infidels. So we have to take those sides and push them away.
Well, to help Saeed out a little bit, I think that brings us to one of the issues on our list, and that is this terrible poll that was done, talking about how Americans are giving up on democracy. And it's not just America. I think it's happening all over the world.
Yeah, it's happening in Europe as well. It's the strong man. There's some appeal to a strong man to solve all our problems, and you know that's autocracy and leads to fascism, and it's awful. But I do think there's that feeling. That's why people love Trump. They think he can do anything, and he's the personification of what they want, what they aspire to. I don't quite get it.
Yeah. Saeed, can you talk a little bit about the study so that people know what we're talking about?
Yeah, so there was a recent survey that found that a large portion of Americans doubt democracy and view violence as acceptable. This is a poll that was taken by the University of Virginia, and not an insubstantial amount of people. We're talking about 25 to 30% harbor these views. And I think that related to the topic of Israel-Palestine, in the last couple of weeks, we've been seeing, for example, quite a bit of agitation, if you will, activism, if you will, especially on college campuses, and then some what I would regard as disturbing recrimination. You hear stories about law firms that are rescinding job offers for people who've been participating in demonstrations that weren't even, one could argue, either violent or toxic in rhetoric. Law school professors actually writing open letters to judges and law firms saying, don't hire anybody who was involved in this. Corporations saying that we're not going to hire anyone who signed letters and resolutions. So freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom to assemble, freedom of association, kind of, your standard First Amendment clauses. And granted that these aren't things that are being impugned by the state, but how's America going to emerge from this wormhole when this current chapter of Israel-Palestine will be done, when this becomes legitimized as ways to respond?
Yeah, it'll become more fragmented, I think.
I was going to say, we're not going to respond. We're not going to emerge from it. It's going to get worse. We're going farther in because it starts with this, and then it's going to be, somebody signed, somebody had a yard sign in support of, P.S. Hello from Columbus, Ohio. I'm here, and they have an election coming up, and they're going to have an abortion rights. There's an issue on issue 1. And the next step is going to be, somebody had an issue 1 yard sign in favor of that. So we don't want that person. And, it's just, I see this as only the first step. So,
this study that Saeed was talking about is really terrifying. I tried to do a deep dive into it last night. And what it found was 31% of Trump voters and 24% of Biden supporters believe that democracy is not, at least somewhat, no longer viable as a system to deal with our issues.
Right.
Constitutional republic. That is terrifying.
It's
just terrifying. We saw under Trump just the checks and balances. I mean, he took the 3 branches of government and reduced it to 1.5. I mean, Congress was never going to remove him. The judiciary, he appointed so many people in the judiciary. We can see the woman down in Florida who's overseeing his case. She's trying to do everything she possibly can without being, looking so obvious. It's dangerous what he did. And if he comes back, he wants to make the FBI a cabinet position. He wants the Justice Department to answer directly to him. I mean, he is a fascist of the greatest degree. And people wave the flag around at his rallies as like they're Americans.
But it's often the rebel flag, and that civil war has never fucking ended.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the South, we're going to go at it again. We're so divided.
Opinion is accepted as fact everywhere you go, and you can't even talk to people that feel that way.
No, everything's visceral and vitriolic, and I'm telling you, it's going to manifest in violence. It already has. There's
Trump's defense. Trump's defense.
It is going to get worse exponentially. Quite frankly, it's going to get dangerous. Is my thought.
Trump thinks his defense is, I believe the election was stolen.
It is.
I believe
exactly
it.
What he
so
thinks.
what?
Yeah.
So that's good enough, isn't it?
Just one disclaimer. I'm pretty sure Joel wasn't talking about the House of Lancaster versus the House of York, but
historical analog.
well. Speaking of responsibilities in positions of political power, now comes news that Adam Hollier has announced his bid to try to make Shri Thanedar a one-term congressman from Michigan 13. And there's actually an article that came out in religious news services about concern regarding Shri Thanedar. that he formed some new Dharma caucus of Hindus and Buddhists and Jains and Sikhs, but that this is being dominated by upper caste Hindus, and in fact is just basically a congressional mouthpiece for Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Apparently, he left in a very public way the Democratic Socialists of America because of their position on Israel, to which the local chapter of the DSA said, we actually kicked him out a week before. And Rashida Tlaib saying, I'm getting people from his district because he's not doing any work. A former intern, Adam Abu Salah, said that he's having a hard time retaining staff, that 6 people have quit in the last 2 weeks, including an intern, and that, quote, he's the most ignorant, self-centered, and uninformed human I've ever worked with.
Wow. He wasn't an intern. That was his comms guy, his communications guy.
Cheeseborough's pleading. Okay. I just got a notice. Cheeseborough, whatever his name is,
Chesborough.
In the case, it's also going to plead to a felony.
Oh, he copped. All right. Okay.
Reporting. I just got a text. So,
so he's really looking to fast track. And by the way, Judge Eileen Cannon in the Mar-a-Lago case, she's announced a trial date of May 20th, which I suppose is a compromise because Jack Smith's special counsel wanted it to be at the end of this year, and Trump wanted it to be in the end of the next Hindu age of Aquarius. Yeah.
Right.
Yes. So we've got that. But again, I think that it's going to be interesting to see how Michigan 13 plays out. The kind of negative press against Shri is increasing, and if you were to ask Adolph Mongo, he probably has a bit of an opinion about who shouldn't be the congressman from there.
Can in the interest of lightening what has been a very dark discussion, though, can I at least say that guy, the comms guy, dropping the dime on Shri, it contains some truly hilarious moments, and my favorite was when they were walking into some event and Shri asked the guy very seriously, would you take a bullet for me? And the guy, Abu, said, no. He said he really got pissed. So
it's very interesting to look back. I mean, first of all, the election here is all about the primary. No Republican going to get in. So it's all about the primary. If you look at the last election, Shri got 28.3% and Hollier got 23.5%, but there were 9 people in that race.
Yeah,
nobody
it was ridiculous.
Would drop out. Nobody would drop out.
Nobody would drop out. If my prediction is that, and look, nobody has said it, but you got to ask the question in a predominantly black district. Agreed, it's a non-white candidate, but don't they deserve a black representative in Congress?
Well,
from the Detroit metropolitan area.
That's what Adolph Mongo would say.
That's right.
The state of Michigan has
like Adolph, so I'm going to channel Adolph. I've channeled Steve and Adolph today. This is a new role for me.
It's heavy lifting, Bill.
Bill, I think you handled the UHF and the VHF channels.
but my prediction is, and this was with Shri spending a boatload of money, way more than anybody, all the other candidates combined. Shri owned the television stations during that campaign. I think Hollier will be successful in this bid if there are only 3 or 4 candidates. But if there's 9, who knows what's going to happen?
People knew that was going to happen. I mean, people told other people you need to drop out, and nobody wanted to drop out. They were like, "No, I'm going to win." No, you're, and there was no.
Sounds like Republicans.
Michigan has 1 black Congress member, and that's John James.
He's a Republican, right?
He's a Republican.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we do have on a lighter side. It's just a 35-second clip.
I got a couple of things for you. Look what I got in my back pocket. Anybody see what that is?
Is that a 5?
I think that's a 5. I think that's a 5. I got something else here. It's f***ing 5. That's 5, gentlemen. That's an outstanding job. All right, I got a couple of game balls here now. All right, defense, don't get pissed at me because it's none of you guys, because all of you played so damn good. I mean, our defense is fucking outstanding, gentlemen. It has been for a long time. Yeah, it's outstanding. You hold somebody to 6 points in this league? Holy crap, guys.
I just
Feels great.
saw,
I got tingles.
It is. All except Nancy, as a grammarian, she was having a seizure.
It was okay. It's sports, you know.
It's okay.
It's cool. Yeah, it's a locker room. All the rules are off. Yeah.
Yeah. No typecasting at all, Nancy. But okay.
No.
All right. I think Allan, we're ready to go to a commercial after that.
I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. We are living through unprecedented times. As a result, the Michigan Homeowner Assistance Fund was created. This fund, administered by the state of Michigan, is designed to help homeowners cope with pandemic-related hardships, such as delinquent property taxes. Residents may apply for up to $25,000 to help cover 2019, 2020, and 2021 tax years. Previous year's taxes must be paid in full or in a payment agreement with the Treasurer's office. Eligible homeowners must have a qualified financial hardship that occurred on or after January 21st, 2020. You must currently own and occupy your home as your primary residence and must have owned it since January 21st, 2020. To see if you qualify, please visit waynemetro.org, call 313-388-9799, or email textinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
And moving on.
All right.
Downtown Detroit, Robert Wells, Schmuck of the Week.
Okay. I'm sure
old.
no one has one. It
Never
never
gets
gets old. All right. Barb, we'll start with you.
Okay. You know, the gift that keeps on giving is the Michigan Republican Party. I did a search because I've been on vacation. I was a little bit out of it. Just like sit down and I went into, we use DuckDuckGo, Michigan Republican Party problems, and this comes up. Michigan's GOP is a doggone mess. No HQ and no big donors. Where is Michigan's Republican Party? Everything has fallen off a cliff. Michigan Republican Party boss cashes in while party struggles. MAGA versus Ultra MAGA. Michigan Republican Party at war with itself. Michigan GOP seeks secrecy pledge for party finances. Michigan GOP worries, frustrations loom.
We could be here all day reading those headlines.
Right, I'm stopping here. And I just also, Jim Jordan lost his latest bid.
It's third
The
bid.
third bid, he's down. 25 votes, he's down. It never ends, and I guess it's not funny, but it is pretty funny. On the local level, it makes me feel better about the state of Michigan. We're gonna prevail, I think. But we suffer in Jesus. What
it's the old Sun Tzu thing, you know, when your enemy is in the process of destroying himself, let him
go.
Yeah, pour a drink. Let it go.
Nancy, I thought you were going to say when your enemy's happy and you know it, clap your hands.
Yeah.
Okay, David Porter, one of our reviewers, chimed in. His schmuck of the week is people fighting over the whale mural downtown. So thank you for that, David. Okay, Joel.
Okay, I was going to go with Jim Jordan, who lost his third because he's a total schmuck. But I'm also going to just say a word about kids who text. They're kids. A 20-year-old, a 25-year-old is going to text whatever they're going to text. And they're at a stage where they're idealistic and they're fervent. And I think we need to be forgiving and not so judgmental, just like Bill was saying, taking jobs away. These are kids.
Mm-hmm.
So those who are kind of punishing kids just because they're kids and you don't agree with their political view, I think those guys are schmucks. You're doing everything to confirm that you're an asshole when you do that.
Exactly.
And quite frankly, it doesn't help with anti-Semitism. It always bothers me because you're representing every Jew when you do something like that. You just are. And you have to be forgiving and understand who the hell you're dealing with, which are children. My kid's 27. What comes out of his mouth is what comes out of the mouth of a 27-year-old who thinks he knows everything. And not until he's 40, 45 will he know that he knows nothing.
Right.
And so that's just my word of caution.
I heard a 4-year-old call another kid stupid, and I contacted LinkedIn, and they're pretty much done. So
He'll never get a job. Bastards.
Yeah. I told him put that in the masthead. Okay, Joel. Oh, sorry.
No, you already
Joel. Bill.
I'll go get it.
A couple weeks ago, I started doing Mensch of the Week and Schmuck of the Week. I thought that was a better combination. I want to say something, if you don't mind. I want to take a second to say something I said off the air last week, and I want to say it on the air this week. I am eternally and deeply and humbly grateful for you folks to be able to talk about the issues that we talk about as a Palestinian in what I consider to be a very safe place. I haven't had very many of those safe places. Being a Palestinian, I've heard recently that from Palestinians, being a Palestinian has been tough lately, and from Jews, being Jewish has been tough recently. I want to tell you, being a Palestinian married to a Jew, it's been real tough lately. For you people to be so respectful and so engaged in the conversation in honest and sincere ways, you guys are my Mensch of the Week.
That's super kind.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you.
Back at you, brother.
Yeah. And by the way, being neither, I'm getting screwed from every side.
Yeah.
But
Well,
that's okay.
you look like one of us, though. And, all you Muslims are. I was going to go with Jim Jordan. As a former high school wrestler, I will tell you that to lose 20-0 should be a humiliation. You go 22-0 in your second round and 25-0 in the third round. This guy doesn't know when to quit, apparently.
There you go.
Then he hates democracy, even better.
Yep.
Yeah. The
irony is
talk of the
absurd.
week are the 34% of the Trump supporters and 28% of the Biden supporters who no longer believe that democracy works.
Right.
Jim Jordan.
I almost didn't recognize him when he actually put a blazer on in the house. I thought it still had a mini pearl price tag on it, but
he stopped wearing the short sleeves too, which is
reference.
nice. But yeah, there you go.
Hee-haw. 1976.
I'd love to do a takedown on that guy.
Yeah. I just realized between the mini pearl and the VHF UHF references, nobody under the age of 50 knows what the hell we're talking about. So that's okay. There needs to be, as you said, Bill, and thank you for saying what you did. There needs to be a safe space, not only for that, but for some people our age.
Yeah.
So this is that. Allan.
On this one, my son and daughter disagree with you, Saeed, but they want us to all be quiet.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe they don't like Mini Pearl, and them's fighting.
They don't like a safe space for people in our age group.
The junior samples. I missed that guy.
Duly noted. Allan.
I'm going to go with Mike Pence. There was just an article, I think today in
You mean
Washington.
Tupac? You mean
Tupac? Right. Tupac, aka Mike Pence, whose campaign is in financial trouble. The ratings are low, the enthusiasm is low, and for what reason he thought he could even step into the ring? I mean, the guy still thinks he should get credit that he didn't listen to Trump and try to overturn the election.
Yeah,
he thinks he should get credit for obeying the law. That's his biggest credit out there. I think he's a disgrace. He was an enabler during he was used this crazy man, and he looked like the nice church going dude, but the sooner he drops out, the better. But
I think there's a divergence there. I think that the funding is an issue, but I think the enthusiasm being low is more his wife. But mother.
He calls her mother.
Hey, I see Nancy's there, and she doesn't like me using that term because she knows it's a very, very Midwestern term. So
it is. It's a very. I am the only person in the world who is not on the Mike Pence's gay bandwagon. But there you go. So. Okay.
And you're the poor for it. Okay, so my schmucks.
What about me? You didn't call on me.
I'm so sorry, Nancy. Go ahead.
That's because I have a good one. I have a local schmuck, and that is Carl Mintz. who is the guy who was arrested for throwing out a social media call for people to go hunting Palestinians with him. It so somebody put up a picture of him that I could hardly believe it was actually him. So I went Googling for him, and I found the same story that our former colleague Violet found, which is that not only did this guy go over the top this week, he's got a long history of this, and he was faced charges in 2010 for shooting a guy in a road rage incident. And what I found really interesting about that story is that the person that he shot was identified as somebody named Faith Saeed. Okay. I saw that and I thought, I bet that's a typo. I bet that person's real name is Fatih Saeed and is a Muslim or an Arab of some sort, because that's a very Muslim or Arabic name. And that's the kind of stupid autocorrect mistake that happens these days. So my guess is that and plus somebody named Faith is probably a woman and is unlikely to get out of her car and confront somebody in a road rage incident. I mean, women are generally smarter than that. So, so he's not only a troublemaker now, he's been a troublemaker for quite some time. He calls himself a social media influencer, and he's a Trumper, needless to say, blah, blah, blah. So, he's a bad guy. And so that's mine.
If you've seen the mugshot, professional or amateur ladies man is not part of his LinkedIn description.
But keep in mind though, the problem though is not guys like him and the guy who fatally stabbed a 6-year-old and his mother in was it Chicago? In Chicago last week. It's college students signing on to a pledge against Israeli extremism. So there you go.
So he was apparently also a former school board candidate who running on a campaign to end critical race theory.
Yeah.
And a member of the Jewish Defense League. So
today's Donald Lobsinger.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
That's who he reminds me of.
Yeah.
You got to be real old to remember Don
Lobsinger, yeah.
Lobsinger was a real piece of work.
So for anybody who was looking to swipe right, he might be incarcerated for a while.
Plus, he's just homely. So there we go.
My schmucks are, first of all, real quick, because I don't want to keep dunking on the GOP, especially since Barb did a really good job with that. But Kalamazoo County Republican Commissioner John Gisler, who said that he'll identify as black female on a county survey and wants you to as well. So that was one. But my real schmuck is actually the dog that caused Rani the elephant, that's R-A-N-I, which means queen in Hindi, to lose her life in the St. Louis Zoo. Apparently a rowdy dog got loose in a non-public area of the zoo, and poor Rani then actually freaked out and collapsed and died as a result of it.
So Shonda.
That's sad.
A total
takes their dog to the zoo?
Like to pay a visit.
It may not have been somebody's dog. I think that there's a question about its having proprietary ownership to somebody, but they did not put down the dog. Apparently, they have decided to detain dog. Might have actually confessed, so there's not really much of an issue there. But according to a necropsy, pretty much. Well, I may have to duet with Sidney Powell. But according to a necropsy that was performed by the zoo's pathologist, and this is going to really matter to Jeffrey Feiger when he takes the wrongful death case, it looked like she had a pre-existing condition. So,
congratulations for properly using the term necropsy too. So.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Joel, let me know about the Shiva. I think they'll just have a big bowl.
There'll be elephant ears. They're delicious. They're cinnamon and sugar, maybe with a raisin, maybe two. Okay.
A college professor once pointed out to me An autopsy can only be performed by one member of a species on another member of a species. So we do autopsies as human beings on other human beings, but when we do post-mortems on other animals, it's a necropsy. So there you go.
Wow. I did not know that. Thank you.
Now
My
you all
FPC
know.
scores
Now
were
all
terrible.
of our thousands of listeners know too.
I don't
So
have
that's
to read
great.
the New Yorker anymore.
Here's the problem. I won't remember it next time I need it.
I'm the same.
Well,
Okay.
after this episode, I'm moving from being a heroin addict to a methadone addict. So there,
Count me in.
count everybody. Listen, again, thank you. And I just want to go ahead and echo again, Bill. I mean, your really kind words, and I hope that not only everybody who comes on to this show, but I think everyone out there who's listening and all, I hope that you feel that this is a safe space as well. I hope you feel as though it's a place where you can come. And I'm not going to apologize if your views are being challenged. I hope that in some cases they are, but realize that they can be challenged in a very respectful way, with a whole lot of trust and a whole lot of admiration for colleagues in the way that they can do that. With
We
that,
ought to be on CNN and having our hair and makeup done by professionals. So we should be on CNN. So there
Hey,
you go.
Nancy, hair and makeup, hair.
Well, you know,
Nancy,
so you don't
polish
polish
my
it.
head.
Powder it down.
Nancy, I don't want to blow my amateur makeup status. It might affect my ability to get into the makeup Olympics. So I'm fine where I am.
Okay.
But my MAC color, apparently, according to the CBC makeup lady, is 45.
Okay.
So yeah. The fact that I have one is
terrifying. That's the
disturbing.
best.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you,
Okay.
Joel Sklar. Thank you, Bill
It was a
Seikaly.
pleasure.
Thank you, Barb Ingalls. Thank you, Nancy Derringer. And of course, thank you, Allan Lengel, for always bringing us together with the last word.
Drive home safely.